You're up.
Good morning. Let's call this meeting back to order. Tuesday, July 22nd at a little bit after 8 o'clock. We'll call this recess meeting back to order. This time, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the wonderful day you've given us once again. And Father, I pray that you just forgive us of our many sins. Father, I pray that you watch over us, that we'll do the business of the county, Father, that it be pleasing to you and according to your will. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All righty. Miss Laura?
Before we get started on the budget, I have one item that I need to add. Call Bo and emailed me yesterday for a grant. It's Office of Juvenile Justice Seeking Delinquency Prevention Grant. It would be up to $166,000 each year for 3 years. There is a 25% match required, but they can use state dollars that they are already receiving and spending as the match.
Okay, so we need to,
Are they gonna hire somebody with that?
I know they've lost several slots. They would like to hire, he just mentioned one back, and he was a part-time person that they would like back. Other than that, I don't know.
And just for the sake of conversation, what happens if that state funding gets cut?
Same thing as last time, people's positions went away.
Yeah.
And they did last time, they lost their position, and then when they were awarded like one or two more, but they still have like two that never received their positions back.
Yeah.
okay. Do I have a motion to add this item to the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now we just need to make a motion to approve this grant,
Correct, to apply for it.
apply for this grant.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Brown. Any questions? Just want to make sure that, like you said a few minutes ago, as Mr. Bishop said, that if it does go away, that I guess that it will be the personnel, I guess the grant would go away and the personnel would go away with it. Okay. Any more questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay. Is that all we have for the,
That's all I have
to-
for
for-
the way.
Yeah,
For
we're
cleanup?
trying to keep this strictly budget.
gotcha.
And this one had a deadline in 3 days, and was the
Okay.
only reason that I had to bring it
Good
up.
deal. Okay. Well, let's get into the budget items then.
Would you like to go ahead, or would you like to wait?
Well, obviously Laura's gonna do most of the talking here. Yeah, and she's been working on this hard. Now, this is not necessarily put together to say, let's get firm decisions on everything here. There's a lot of this is primarily for information, so that you can take it, look at it, come back, and we can ask questions, and we can find out the answers to the questions and come back and answer those questions. But there is a lot of good information here at the same time. So I think that probably what I would recommend and say what's in it, and go from there.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, if you notice on the top right-hand side, I put that all departments contain a $1,200 raise per employee and no raises for part-time or retirees. They may also contain department raise requests that are outside. That was just a starting point. I put $1,200 per person per year, rounded up to the nearest step. And in the board's department, the difference would basically be for raises, the fringes that go to that, and our liability and property insurances that were a little bit over budget last year to bring them into line to what I think they should be. In the Chancery Clerk's department, the increase you see there would be to add Larry's insurance for his employees into the department. And there is a land roll maintenance line item that I transferred from the court up to the clerk's budget.
Okay.
Is there a reason why that was added?
The insurance
Yeah.
requested.
Well, we denied it last year, didn't
Yes, year before there was a half premium dollars in there. For the current year we're working in.
Just clear for me then. If we pay this insurance, then where's this other money go? The money that he would normally pay the insurance?
You know, here, that's a good, I've been trying to find out the answer to the same thing, Mr. Morrison. But take, in FY13, for example, we paid, basically, we had budgeted to pay for about half of his insurance, which was about $44 million, which then that he was.
44,000?
Thousand.
I mean, thousand, I'm sorry.
We are recording.
44,000. But anyhow, and then he was to pay the other half. The truth is that we paid the whole thing because we pay it on a monthly basis. And at the end of the year, he turned in, I think, $11,000. Okay, which means he could have applied that $11,000 against the insurance.
So what do you mean we paid the whole thing?
Which means on a monthly basis, that's part of the, his employees are included in the monthly insurance bill that we pay.
Wait. Then you
And he is
confused me.
supposed to
Wait.
pay us back for that, but he, on this insurance, and what I'm saying is he didn't.
Okay, so we were only gonna pay half of it,
Yeah.
but as it turned out, we wound up paying all of it?
We ended, yeah, and then at the end of the year, he turned in $11,000.
And the reason we pay all of it is because we just can't cut it off midstream or they lose their insurance. So we paid it and he reimburses.
Well, that's even less than half of what it cost us.
He did not have the money to reimburse us, so he did
Why-
not,
why-
and he turned in his money.
How do you, is there a checks and balances to be able to make sure that he has the money? I mean, what does he spend? I mean, is there any way to know what he spends it on?
That was what I was trying to say.
Right.
Where does this money go
Well,
if we're paying insurance? Where does
by
this
the
money
law,
go?
he's able to spend a lot of money that y'all don't get involved in.
That's right.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have to spend it. If he doesn't spend it, what does he do with it?
Well, I mean, he can give raises, he can redo his buildings, he can buy stuff, he can go on trips, whatever he wants.
I mean, can it go to his salary?
No.
Not
No, sir.
to his salary.
It
His
has the
salary.
expenses of his employees, his office.
Okay.
So there's really no way for us to track or be able to get back exactly what we're putting into, what the county be putting into for insurances. Just for instance, he's asking for 84,600 and something and change. There's no way to reimburse the county for $84,000.
Well, if,
He's not, doesn't have to.
Well, that's what I'm
if we
saying,
didn't
sir.
fund, if we said, no, we're not funding it,
Right.
we pay it, and there's nothing to say that he really ends up paying us back. He
Oh,
gives
so-
us what, after he files his report at the end of the year, whatever is left, he turns in.
So in all essence, I guess kind of the same thing as Jared, I guess, down here with this budget shows that we would only be paying half, but in reality, we paid the full 100%.
No, this budget, the four.
No, no,
the one
what
we
I'm-
No,
recommend-
in the past.
In the past.
FY13, the budget showed that we would be paying half, but in essence, we paid
100%.
about $32,000 of the $43,000. Because at the end of the year.
He turned back in 11.
$11,000.
So I guess then if we paid all 84 of it this year, then we should be looking to get back about 80.
No, if he ain't got
70.
11,000, that's it.
No, but
11,000
we'd be paying all of it this time.
Well, you
Up
could
front.
look, say, well, maybe then he'd have 40 or 50,000 to
Yeah.
turn in. But of course, he's got some discretion what he does with that money
Oh,
throughout the year.
Wait a minute, he didn't pay any of it last year. He only turned in 11,000.
Well, that's true.
How do you expect that to be different this year?
Yeah.
On just backing up, Laura, you can make it, would know some more about this. How was it when, I remember when I was first elected, I saw some things where when Murphy was in office, how he gave back some large sums to the county. What's the difference?
Oh, I think that was something to do with his retirement, and he couldn't make but
In
just a
the
certain
last
amount.
few years, Walter, that was correct. In the last few years, he did retire before he left office, so therefore his amount was limited and he had more money. But I am understanding from Larry and Becky and all, the times were different then too. The way people filed, the amount of things being filed and all, there was more money generated through these offices. And so, I will tell you this though, Murphy had quite a large budget from the county, so therefore it wasn't necessary for him to spend his own fee dollars in order to buy equipment and all.
I got you.
And anything Murphy ever came and asked for, he got, and so he didn't have to spend his
So that's when
fee
he could
dollars.
give back more because,
And that's the
yeah, he
reason
was
could
funded
give back.
more.
Right,
Yeah.
he had a much larger, I mean, this is y'all's decision, but in all the other counties that I am aware of, it's always paid for the chancery and the circuit clerk's employees.
Well, is there any way we have of knowing what kind of money that, both, not just that one, but both, offices generate?
After the end of the year, after they file their expense report with the Secretary of State's office, I believe it's online for anybody to view.
So you'd have to take what they use, the expense report.
Right, you have to go by their expense report, which says, you know, what fees they generated, where they were generated from, what they used as expenses. Now, I don't know that you can identify every expense because it might be lumped into certain categories. I mean, you couldn't maybe identify if he gave money to, I'm just off the top of my
Right.
head, like to a chamber or
Right.
or some athletic association. You might not could identify that line
Sure.
item, just that he claimed it as an expense.
Right. Well, do
He's in them all.
they have a,
Yeah.
I'm talking both departments, do they have a salary cap?
They have a salary cap by the county
funds
funds of 90,000, but then they have those things that are considered outside of the cap, that they can make,
Testing.
which are their,
Okay, so their fees and things can go to like an additional salary to them,
yes.
part of it, a portion of it.
Yes, what they don't spend.
That's what I was getting at then, I think, is because what I was saying, where does this other money, what does he do with the other money if he's not paying his insurance? Well, that's what I was getting at. So obviously, he can make
Well, the
He-
difference
over the
is-
90,000.
He makes that
Some of the
money, but
difference.
that money is what he runs his office of, because we don't pay his employees.
Okay.
He has to maintain that payroll for them.
All right.
And so, if he doesn't take in enough money to have to pay those employees, I guess he'd have to let somebody go.
Okay.
Or reduce their salaries.
Yeah.
Or whatever, because his amount that he gets from the county is set by statute.
But there was the fees and all, okay, the fees and all are paying his whole office,
Yes.
right?
And the difference is Murphy used to keep everything very tight, and Larry has given plenty of raises and hired additional staff, and has done quite a bit with the office. So, I mean, there's, I would dare say though that I'd love to see a comparison of the number of transactions that are transpired in a year's time back, 10 years ago compared to today. That would be very telling, I'd say the least.
Yeah, just like y'all
I don't know if
rested
that information even exists. The,
Is this Baker's house?
I guess, Mr. Stringer, I don't understand, I guess I just don't understand the checks and balances of that
Well,
office.
I think that
Well,
this
I
might
think
be
Becky's would do
be
the
an
same.
issue. I think this might be an issue, that, like I said, this morning is an exploratory
Right.
type of a situation that y'all may want to have Larry to come in and discuss a little bit about
be- yeah.
his money and so forth.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
an informative thing for me too. I have never kind of like, I guess Greg, Becky's office nor his office understood the whole dynamics of how their salary, they pay the office, and what they do, where the rest of the money goes, because that money to me seems like it should be county money, because the taxpayers, I mean, I felt like it should be county money, but that's really, I'm trying to understand the dynamics of the whole thing.
And it is a very dynamic thing, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've sat in on the committee hearings in the Capitol when they've discussed chancery clerks, and as you know, it can get very political,
All right.
et cetera, et cetera. But as we get into this detail, if you want more detail, I think we're just gonna have to get Larry in here and let him answer the questions. Now, let me be very upfront. Larry does a lot of things that people don't really realize what he does a tremendous job of taking care of the indigent people, particularly the elderly people in this state.
Right.
And I mean, he's got a large number of them.
Oh, I
And
understand.
these are people that would be headlines if he wasn't doing what he was doing.
Oh, I agree, and I know a couple of cases individually, particularly that I know personally. So yeah, I'm just really trying to get it understood because I get asked sometimes, and I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm really trying to get educated
Yeah,
and know a little more than what the person asking me knows. You know?
that's a good question. So would y'all like to have Larry to come in at one of these future meetings? And he's gone this week.
I'm fine. I mean,
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
It
If,
won't bother me.
I know we've had him in before, discussing kind of the same stuff, but it's
It's not going to be. It's more.
Yeah, he's not gonna change what he wants.
Well, look, while we're on that subject, Circuit Chancellor Clerk, y'all had a meeting that I never heard anything from about I think with him on the fees for title.
Yes, that's coming back up
Online,
at a
yeah.
meeting either at the end of this month or the first meeting next month. The McDeer people, and that's what we're talking about here, are gonna be here, telling the board how all of this works and how it will fit into the new website and so forth.
Well, my question, Bo, was why are we charging a fee and others aren't?
Well, of course, the only people that don't charge a fee, come to fact, I'd say only, but I think that primarily the only one that doesn't charge a fee is Madison County in particularly. And if you ask them, they say that's the biggest mistake they've ever made, by not charging the fee.
I think Ronnie Lott's probably gonna try to.
And that's all part of this, that's all part of what we'll be talking about at the end of the month.
There's more than one county that doesn't charge a fee.
I think that if there is, there's not many, okay? And I think that probably, was it Harrison? One of the coast counties is questionable where they
I think
charge
it
a
is
fee.
Harrison.
What?
It may be
Charge a
Harrison.
fee or not, and I think that there's some issues with that even.
Of course, there's probably a majority of the counties that don't even have it available.
I was going to say, right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say
Gotta
that.
Drive up there and find book and deed.
But apparently in Madison
Page.
County in particular, which is the one we're familiar with, very quick to stand up and
Wow.
say that's a
I think what
bad
we're
decision.
asking for, from what I understand from talking to Rusty, that Madeira is supposed to be coming here and providing us with what Larry agreed to originally, that should, take care of what we want. And still give him opportunity to make plenty of money. If people want to be able to get more access, further details about their deed, and, if they got to print it off, they got to go log in and pay money for it. But there should be enough information available to the public for free to satisfy what we want. That's what we'll see come.
Okay.
If a person walked into the office there though, and asked for that same piece of information, would they be charged then?
No,
Now,
only if they carried a copy with them.
okay, yeah, if they get a copy, they
Oh,
have
they
to
get
pay
a
for the
copy, man, like you
Yeah.
gotta buy a copy online.
Right.
If you're gonna have to buy a copy,
If you have a piece of paper, if you have something in your hand, you're gonna pay for it whether you walk in or whether you get it on.
But you're not going to pay $50.
No, yeah, and they're not gonna pay $50 under this system either.
Well, the one they under now they do.
Well.
You have to
that's
sign
what
up
I'm
$50 a month.
No, that's what we're gonna talk about at the end of the month. That is not gonna be the way this
Okay,
works.
yeah, I mean, something's one thing, but $50 a month,
Yeah.
and you only got, there's a limited number of hits too.
Paid for Murphy's office that we don't pay for Larry's office.
Yeah,
I thought we
so
did
many
the
hits,
same.
another $50. It's kind of like gambling, isn't it?
I'll bring it next time I come, Jay, I'll look back and show you, but he just had a much larger budget.
when you're saying much larger, are we talking 1.5 times, 2 times, or who do you,
who do you?
Murphy's?
Yeah, I'm
I'd
just
love
wondering
this
what we
being
paid for
recorded.
Murphy that we not paying for Larry.
So you're looking at Murphy's roughly around 400, what he was having?
Probably, I'd have to look back, that's been so long ago, but I do know that he had a larger budget.
Oh.
with.
Okay.
On the next one, on the circuit
Hey,
clerk.
I'm curious, why do we have to record all this?
Because it's a
Because it's a.
It's a
It's a
meeting.
called meeting.
Well, it sure limits the way you want to, things you might want to ask.
Not really.
No?
Can't.
If you got it on your
I
mind,
mean,
ask it.
informative things that you might want to ask. It's
Oh,
nothing that is a secret, but you,
But I let the lawyer speak. I don't think we've got any choice but to
No, sir,
record
This
it.
is a public meeting, and it's, our meetings are now recorded and
Yeah.
posted.
well, it won't be, okay.
Yep.
You just have to do a lot of sidebars. Hey, come here. And ask very quietly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right, sidebars is what those attorneys live for.
I'm gonna start writing notes here.
All right, so
They're
we're
discoverable.
on the circuit clerk?
Yes, the next one, the circuit clerk, she came and met with me, and she was fine with paying her insurance if need be, but she said, of course, if y'all allow it in his budget, she'd also like it, which is,
Really?
stands to reason.
Let me,
So I went ahead and put it in there, but the reason hers isn't quite as much as her insurance would cost is because she had quite a bit of postage for redistricting in there, and so we were able to take some of that out.
If we paid the insurance, all the insurance for 2013, we would have to amend his budget, wouldn't we?
Yes,
So then.
but I don't know that until the end of the year when we make all the amendments either, if he's gonna be able to pay or not.
But I mean, that amount of money should be about the same what it is today, right?
For the amended budget, when
Yeah.
we come down to the amended, yes,
When will we know what the amended is gonna be?
October 1, after the year closes out,
And don't we do a motion to
yes. to
accept the
amend-
final amended budget?
yes.
And that's
Right.
all wrapped up into that.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The next one is the tax assessor's office, and you can, will be needed in there, we're getting that paid for. The tax collector's increase is just for, any raise, the 1,200 raises, plus they have a new educational allowance, similar to what the tax assessor does. And there's probably about 5 or 6 girls that will be getting that allowance, and also the cost of collections, seems to be.
We, just about every month, we're sending somebody to some classes, so we're sending them to classes somewhere so they can get raises.
This is a new,
Statutory.
this is a new statutory.
I know, but I'm just
thing for
saying,
them.
That's
they
right.
go to the class, we
We-
pay to send them to the class, and then we give them a raise. Okay.
Well,
That's a
the,
good deal.
the theory behind that, having been involved in that in some detail in a
Mhm.
previous life, the theory behind that is when you send them off, when they come back, they are a better and more
Yeah.
valuable employee.
Yeah. Yeah, I know after I get a guy and I teach him everything that I want him to know, then he's worth more. Because he's gonna go down the road and get a job, because I know all this now.
We need to
That I
improve
taught
our,
him.
we need to improve our lobby effort so that our staff can go get certified, you know?
That's right.
And you can you can do that. You can pass ordinance, you can pass motions and all to do that.
We get classes.
Well, look,
every
I'm a
2
whole lot
weeks.
smarter now at this than I was when I was elected, so I don't see any
On 103,
statue on there
That's
for
a
me.
that's a sidebar conversation.
Those are just scars, man.
that 402,000 that came out of John's, who paid for that? How
What's
did
that?
you said we didn't have, on
The
the
GIS,
assessors?
it was general county funds that we had put in the budget. It was it started 2 years ago, where we put the money in, which was the time that we raised the millage.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a
It'll be
one-time
finished.
buy,
And it'll be finished in November?
about.
Is it a $500,000 that we put in there?
It was 400 and
400
something, 450, something
Yeah.
like that, where we put in a little bit each year. And so that last, and we didn't have to spend any of it. The process started, but we didn't have to spend any, so we left it in for last year. it'll be paid for by the end of the year, this fiscal year, so it's not necessary to have in his budget anymore.
Under the tax collector, what is the cost of collection? What falls
That's for
under
that company that we pay, the
Yeah.
percentage they get on collections. And that's always a guesstimate for us as to what it's gonna be, and we added some more in because it's up.
Be nice if we go ahead and bid that out so we can take care of that. I know we said we were gonna do it first of the year, back in November.
What to bid out, what now? The
The,
GIS?
look, no,
Oh.
our collections.
Oh.
Get, you know,
Yeah, because that woman, I forget where she's from.
Texas.
I hear from her all the time, or saw her at the supervisors convention.
I think we can get a better deal than what we're getting now. I know we can.
The next is the county administrator's department, and that increase is due to raises and just various small adjustments. Purchasing, that increase is also due to raises and a request for a forms printer. The board attorney's department is the part-time secretary was approved after the beginning of the year that we are currently in.
Mhm.
And so we will have to add that in there this year.
So are we gonna give Craig another raise?
We haven't had that
Are we gonna-
We haven't
conversation
had
yet.
that conversation.
Just
yet.
haven't had that conversation yet. You know, I can't find him to talk to him. I'm kidding.
He's
I'm
been
kidding.
pretty tired here lately.
I'm kidding.
Come see me. in
He's been
one of
wore
our
down.
judges.
They about wore him down the last couple of days, I think.
Yeah. But that's a good question, and just haven't had that conversation yet.
Superintendent of Education's office, that's just for utilities. Maintenance of building and grounds, that is some raises that are in there and a maintenance contract. And we can come back to any raise that's outside of the 1,200 and talk about those as a group, and we can do that, I believe, in executive session, because it will be naming names and
It's personnel.
identical
It's
Right.
personnel.
salaries.
Personnel.
So we'll come back to any of those. Veteran Service Officer, the copier that was in there was also used by the election commissioners. He used it very little, so we transferred the money out to the election commissioner's department, because he just goes over there and uses it every once in a while. So that took some money out of there.
That's another one that, you know, he sits there and he does his job. He does it very well. He does it rather silently. But if he wasn't doing it, we'd hear a lot about that area.
Yep.
Building Inspection Department, there is a request for a new employee in that department, and there are raises and their few computers are in there.
What type of employee?
Clerical type employee, and Renee is going to be, when it's her time to come before the board, she'll be bringing the figures of, you know, the increased permits and anything for the overlay and all that. And actually, last year, she had been approved for 2 part-time employees, and she got 1 part-time
Right.
employee.
Well, the overlay wasn't supposed to cost us any extra money.
Not, I guess not money, but work.
No, I think it was supposed to pay for
I
it.
just was saying, you know, it don't cost any
She's
extra
going to
money.
bring-
Planted in their cheek.
But we had so many people we cut in that department, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I just want to throw that out there, you know that.
The Chancery Court budget is a slight reduction. We moved a contract that I had told y'all 14,440 got moved up to the Chancery Clerk's Department, but then we added back a stenograph machine for the court reporter. Hers is like from 2003. It's quite old, so we had to add that back in there. In the circuit court, the additions are for attending court, court minutes, juror cost is just cost of the court. County court,
Some of that state law.
yes, it is.
Mhm.
County court would be, the House Bill 484 raise for the judge, that, you know, is for 4 consecutive years, and then other raises that would be in there.
Laura, is that under the Chancery Court, or isn't it the court reporters and administrators and all those people that are due that raise,
Yes.
and it's in there?
Additional from what we just did?
No, right yet, because I'm not sure of the amount. It has not come through on our monthly statement. You know, we pay it to the AOC, and so I have to get all those costs in there.
There's one employee of the Chancery Court whose anniversary date for being on the job will occur, I think, September, which will entitle him statutorily to an increase in pay. So that should be reflected on the documents that are provided ultimately by the court. But we were sort of warned about that when we talked about the other two individuals that you guys saw fit to go ahead and bump. That there was a third.
So there's another raise coming for them?
Yes, not for them, for the third individual over there who's entitled to a raise.
For that department.
It's unrelated to the two that we took action on. It's a separate deal.
Well,
It
if
has
he
to
hadn't,
do-
if he hadn't even been there a year yet, why is he,
No,
No, he's been there.
He's been there, I think this will be his 8th or 9th
Yeah,
year.
been there a long time.
well, then why wasn't he brought up with the other
The
two?
timing wasn't right. He hadn't hit his anniversary date. He wasn't entitled to it.
It was mentioned.
What is the anniversary date on that? What was the stipulation on that?
Under AOC's regulations, once they hit certain timeframes in their
Right.
employment.
10 years?
the
Right, whatever.
tenure, And I think it's 8 years.
Okay.
If I remember
That's
correctly.
just like the House Bill 484 and the raises that were given to the DA's attorneys.
Uh-huh.
They're stages of years.
Yes.
If they have
Okay.
up to this many years, then it goes to different levels of the number of years that they
Gotcha.
have.
Pay
As to
levels.
what they're
Entitled to.
Right.
So, tell me this, then, last year, there was, on that House bill, there was some assistant DAs that didn't fall under the guidelines of being a state employee. And the board paid them
Yes.
other folks the additional
Yes.
money, so
And it's in there. It's in the DA's budget now. It's part of, it's incorporated into their budget.
okay.
Or it seems that if you want to raise, you have to go to the legislature. You don't ever turn nobody down.
About like the Board of Supervisors.
In youth court, if you will look, the increase seems quite significant there, but last year's budget was increased when that grant was restored. Remember, they had lost the grant, their budget was cut. After the year went in place, they got the grant, money was restored to them. So this budget is actually a reduction from the original budget before that grant was restored. They are, of course, by this, what we passed this morning, if they are approved this grant, they will come back for an increase in their department based off of the grant, should they receive it. This also contains, the House Bill 484 raise for the judge that's in there. Lunacy court, that's basically, there's not much in there other than statutory fees and court-appointed attorneys, and that's paying for, those that can't afford, indigent people in this, within the lunacy court. That seems to be a consistent increase year after year.
That's a
In
bad
justice
thing
court,
for us.
the amount of increase is basically raise and fringes. The coroner's department, there's not much change there. The district attorney, you're gonna see a decrease of 58,947.
Don't try to
Yeah.
understand it.
They have an employee that we pay 50% of and they pay 50% of, and this person is quite a high paid employee. They're gonna take him over 100%. We're taking a clerical over at a lower cost. It's going to help reduce our budget, plus they're going to be able to turn him over to the state allowance, so it's gonna help both budgets. We're both gonna get a reduction out of the deal. And that's why he said, just take it at face value and go with it.
Bottom line is we're saving.
That's right.
So did the legislature give them another
Yes.
staff member?
Yes, gave them another slot.
All you get to do.
The county attorney. This is
Who is he?
Richard Wilson. Oh, no, he's board attorney.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is
yeah,
Richard
yeah.
Wilson.
Yeah. Okay.
I did put in, and this is discretionary on your part, the House Bill 484 raise does allow him also each year, He did get it the first year, the second year he did not. So therefore, he is one step behind the judges. He is allowed to make 90% of what they make, but currently he's at 84% of what they make because he didn't get one of the interim raises.
Okay.
Public defenders, that little bit of reductions for workers' comp. Elections, I haven't had much time. That is what was turned into me, the increase there. I've not had much time to look at that department to see if there's any wiggle room in there. We'll go back and we'll look at elections again, and I'll base it on, we have a election, coming up this next year. We'll look at how much it cost 4 years ago, and we'll do some figuring there to see if we have enough or actually too much in there. The sheriff's administration is up, raises, plus he's requesting $100,000 more in the vehicle allowance, and they need a new roof on their shop. The jail operation.
Right out here? Right here?
The shop.
Oh, huh.
He said it's leaking all through there.
That, that wouldn't have anything to do with possibly an overlook from a hailstorm that came through. Oh, I mean,
Nothing's been mentioned.
or the tornado.
Nothing's been
Sure been a good time to.
That's a new roof at
look
the
it.
shop, you
Yes.
said?
I don't think there was any damage.
I think 20,000 was put in
No,
there
I'm talking
for a new
on the
roof
shop.
on the shop.
Roof on the shop.
Okay.
Jail operations and JDC are both, as a result of raises plus fringes that would go in there. Ambulance service is a per capita amount that we pay each year.
Why would the raise amount from the jail to the JDC be different?
A lot more people in the jail, budget than there are in JDC. And there might be some other miscellaneous things within the, jail operations too, that's shooting it up, but nothing in particular that I can just say is one large, item. Their medical costs go up every year, it seems like, drugs, prescription drugs go up.
Well, I would think that the jail would be higher than the other though.
The jail is higher than JDC.
You got a 3% versus a 5%.
Now, that
Well,
5%.
it's percentage compared to the last year's budget. That budget's larger, so therefore your percentage would be
Okay.
a smaller amount.
And that includes the
It's not-
vehicles, the new roof, et cetera, in the sheriff's.
Because that does on the sheriff's administration, but not on the jail
On the jail
operation
ops,
juvenile.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are just raises.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably, like I said, some other small things. Each year, their amount for, like I said, drugs and medicine tends to go up each year. Their medical costs do. It just seems to be standard industry, plus the contracts that they have in place for the two different types of insurances, the nurses and the other. I think they have built-in, CPI on them also. EOC, that's some raises included in there. Plus, there were some other reductions, small reductions through his budget, and then some raises included. Constables, this looks like it's up significantly, but we now have 2 constables that are going through payroll. So the associated revenue from justice court, that portion of it goes on the revenue side in your general county that makes up the difference. So this isn't all expenditure. You do have an offset.
Why are they going payroll?
Oh, it's a long-
Yeah, we
it's a
need
long
to talk
story.
about that because to my knowledge, I thought we were paying PERS on all of them.
Well, it's a long story. We did put them through January 1 to pay PERS. PERS then called us and said, we cannot match their PERS, that even though that we may pay on their PERS, we can't do it on a monthly basis. They still have to bear the complete percentage themselves. When their fees are turned in at the end of the year, should they owe an overage, we may pay on that. But not until that time comes that they file their fee statement at the end of the year. Well, by that time, they were all over in payroll. We had, the new one wants to be in payroll, Barry Bean wanted to stay in payroll, the 2 others wanted to go back to claims, and so they did. I guess they want to That's just the way they prefer to do it. So we have 2 in payroll, we have, that pays the salary of the 2 in payroll. It comes over from justice court into general county instead of going into the constable's fund.
Also,
So it's an offset, your revenue and expense.
well, why would you not do, if you're gonna do one, why wouldn't you just do them all?
I would love to.
So are
But
we
we
not
have-
paying the matching part?
Not on the ones through claims, and not
Really?
PERS until the end of the year.
Well, they were part of the same group that wanted to lobby
Well-
to get all this done.
Right, but we have one that says that he is, Social Security exempt.
Not subject to FICA.
Exempt.
I'm not completely understanding that one myself.
Let me see if I can bottom line it.
Yeah, because I thought, we're in the
I would
dark
love
here.
for them
The
all to go to
statute-
payroll.
The statute passed, it says counties can participate or can fund the constable PERS contribution. And PERS took that same statute that we all looked at and arrived at our conclusion. They've got the right to ask the county to put them on PERS, let's do it. PERS looked at the same statute and said, it doesn't really mean what it says. The way y'all are interpreting it doesn't really say that. We interpret it to mean that the county can contribute their, some or all of their PERS contribution, but only after we figure out what it actually is
On the net.
on the net fee income. And PERS said, we don't know what that is until the end of the fiscal year. So county, you just need to sit tight. Yeah, y'all can participate, but not until we know what the actual responsibility is, and then you can pay what would be the portion that is owed, but only on the overage that they owe. In the meantime, the constables are required to contribute both their part of PERS and what would be the county's part of PERS, and it's an estimated arrangement that PERS came up with. So you're having a lot of questions, and what we're telling you in return is PERS is driving this, and they're telling us how we have to do it.
So basically then, they're still paying it.
Yes, sir.
Whatever overage is, and we'll pay that.
And I'm assuming.
But we're
that
not
they're-
paying anything else.
Correct. We can only participate on what they undershoot out of that. They actually contribute 11% of their, is it gross, Ms. Laura?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 11% of their gross fee income
And the,
goes into PERS. And
Right.
that covers their portion and our portion.
and the reason they came up years ago with that arbitrary amount of 11% is because they said most of the time that covers it because they're allowed to write off expenses. So therefore it brings their amount down that they will actually owe on. So they figured the 11%.
If you're still having to pay it, why did they go through all that trouble to
Amen.
get it changed?
Yeah,
so
because
we
they didn't
could?
anticipate that PERS was gonna read the statute and interpret that way. They assumed the
So
way.
now they
it's
wish they
interpreted.
hadn't opened that can.
Well, I
Well-
think Colonel Stringer knows exactly what they did to the bill. I think they just,
Okay, but there's another part to this, depending on how you look at our individual constables. The other part is the FICA withholding. If they're on payroll, we pay their portion of the FICA withholding, which is what,
7.65, the FICA
7.645%. But we have one constable that is, gets stacks of documentation this high, where he's been to the IRS court in Atlanta and so forth, that says he does not have to pay Social Security. So he doesn't get the advantage of the county doing match. So
On the
he
FICA.
figures he's better off staying under the whole system. And the way the law is now, it is not mandatory that they all be paid the same. They kind of have the discretion which way they want to go. Now,
Would
I'm not
this be
saying it
because
makes
he's having
sense, I'm
another
just
job?
saying that's the way it is.
Would this be because he could have another job and it's been
No.
taken out? No?
No.
That's one argument that he's making.
it's
that-
supposed to be because of the 218 agreement.
Yeah. He makes the argument that he is in the system because of other employment. He's in the Social Security system because in that other position that he occupies, that there is a Social Security contribution.
What
That's
other
what I-
position?
I don't know.
I don't
what
know
it
either.
is.
But,
He's got another job?
yes, but
Okay.
he just says that he is excluded from, that the constable pay. The other constables don't see it that way. They're paying their portion of it and contributing to the system.
PERS is a lot more than 11% if you add the
Yes, it
employee
is.
and employer share
I'm saying
together.
It's on the gross, Jay. And PERS knows that they're collecting 11% of more than than,
They will
the 11%
ultimately,
is more than than the constable will likely be responsible for ultimately in total dollar value, because you pay the PERS off of the net fee income.
Well, that's just, I mean, is someone working to get this straight? Because that's just backwards from what the
Yeah.
law, why the law was passed. Is it not? I mean,
I don't know what they're intending to do, Jay.
Yeah, it's a screwed up mess
the
now.
whole intention was so that the county could pay their retirement just like they
Yeah.
pay any
Right.
other employee.
Oh, that was their whole fight.
That's right,
Right.
but it hasn't worked out that way for them.
Well, then, I mean, so really they can decide whether they want just this. We don't have a lot of choice either if they want to go by fees, or they get paid by fees, or they want us to get on the
Ultimate-
county payroll.
Ultimately, though, they are still considered a fee official. They still have to do the expense report. They still have to do all of that at the end of the year. The only difference is the fact they come through payroll. Those that participate in the Social Security system, why wouldn't you want your employer paying half of your Social Security
Okay.
instead of you doing the whole thing?
and matching your retirement.
So
We do
there's-
the same thing for Judy and, I mean, not Judy, but, Becky and Larry.
Right.
Yeah.
There's two different
No.
things going on here, guys.
Yes.
PERS, you just heard about that, and Social Security.
Yeah.
The W-2 part of that covers the constables who have elected to go W-2. They are benefiting from the Social Security component.
Yeah.
They're not benefiting from the PERS
PERS
component,
component.
because PERS has said, we're not gonna give you a benefit, even that's what.
Even though the law
Even
says
though
we
the law
can't.
says this.
If we just
don't
said-
interpret it this way.
We don't interpret it that way, and we're gonna do what the law says. We're gonna match half their, our portion of their check. What
PERS
happens?
says,
No,
hey,
don't
Rankin
be
County,
messing with
here's your
PERS.
check
Don't
back.
make
We don't
PERS
take that.
mad now.
That's right.
Forget it.
What they do is they would give us money back at the end of the year because they say we can't determine what your portion is you could pay for the constable till after January 1 when he's filed his fee report and we
Correct.
determine what the amount is. And then we'll send you a letter and say, this is what you may now contribute on.
But it's worse than that. If the 11% that the constable
yes.
has been paying through the year covers the total PERS exposure on their net fee
Then they
income,
get no help
the
from us.
county cannot contribute.
So
That's
if
not
you
right.
have one constable that owes $3,000 toward PERS at the end of the year, we may help. If the other one owes zero, he gets no help.
Yeah, that's not right.
It's not, and it makes a really bad accounting.
This is apparently something that goes back a long ways
Yes.
between PERS and the
Yep.
constables.
Yep.
And
They thought they were gonna nip it in the bud, and it just,
and the
It's no more.
and so you
It's
we're in a midst of a argument that's been going on.
I see that. Well,
I still
okay,
understand Brad Patridge not wanting to do it because he says he's, Social Security exempt. Why would Von Brown not then? What's his excuse for not doing it?
He didn't give a reason. He just
He
said
didn't
he
give a
didn't
reason?
want to be treated as W-2. He wanted to be
He just said
treated
he
as
won't,
1099.
that's right, didn't give a reason.
No reason.
And we're very happy to give people W-2s rather than 1099s anywhere.
Yeah.
sure.
It just makes it a lot cleaner.
Well, they're supposed to be,
Yeah.
in my opinion, they're contract labor anyway.
Well, I understand that, I don't know how long it will take, but because of the IRS audits that are being done in various counties and will eventually come here, that at some point, it's probably going to be mandated that they were put over in payroll as a W-2 employee. We just don't know when that'll be. So I figure this is gonna catch up in a year or two, and they'll all have to go one way or another.
Yeah.
But PERS is still not right.
Right.
We drafted up a nice document for each of the constables to sign, laying out some of the issues that you just heard about and how that could impact them, and giving them the option to select the method of pay that they wished to receive. They made their selections, and that's how they're being paid.
So we
I
don't
guess-
have, well, we can't just say, we're gonna put you all on payroll. We don't have that option.
Well,
That'd make it easier.
I think that you could mandate that to happen, but the repercussions of it with the individual constables, you can't predict.
Well, but we do, do the uniforms, we do the vests, we do everything. What expenses do they have other than gas and vehicle?
They have insurance on their vehicle.
So they pay that's what I meant,
Right.
vehicle,
Um,
that comes what I meant
I
altogether.
don't know what else that they.
I mean, we're furnished, we
able
put
to-
the lights on the vehicle, we,
Bullets.
We don't furnish bullets. We can't do that. But
guns,
furnish
do they
about
buy their own
everything else.
gun?
Well, we do.
they, what?
We provide their weapons?
No, they have
No.
to provide their own weapon. We provide uniforms and all the things that go with it, handcuffs, holster.
Well, now, on their annual budget, they can buy bullets with that, can't they?
Oh, I was,
Out of,
I don't
out
know,
of,
Jay.
not out of our, we don't ever purchase them for them, out of their money, and they might can charge that as an expense
I don't
against
imagine they
their
use a lot of
income.
bullets.
Reason why I asked, I remember a couple years ago, Barry Bean called up, and this was when the whole
But he
shortage
didn't
on
get 'em.
ammunition was going around.
But I don't think he got them. I think they were purchased through the sheriff's department, and if they gave him some,
They
But
want
so
to
the
buy some.
constables use,
As many as he has to.
You know, he carries it in his.
Not very many.
He carries it in his shirt pocket.
I mean, you're being recorded.
I guess I don't understand, if we have a
That was-
$1,500 budget for them
That's-
annually,
and-
they can't use some of that 1,500 to purchase ammunition?
well, I'm sure they can. That's their
Okay.
money once we
Yeah.
give them.
Okay, there.
Yes. Okay.
No, I was just in the dark about that all this time. I'm thinking, yeah, man, the constables, they ought to be loving us, you know, since we saved them tons of money, and in hindsight, we didn't do anything for them.
Right.
We had lengthy conversations. I think they recognize that this is PERS.
Yeah, I mean, we did all we could do.
It's not the board.
Yeah.
We also have to put that allowance, the allowance for lost cost is in there too, that 1,800 a year. We have no discretion over that either.
Yeah, we
That's
thought we
there.
did.
That's back in there
Yeah, that
also.
worked out real good. Let me ask you, do we, I know there was some talk, email about, I mean, well, never mind, I'll ask that later.
You talking about outfitting the new guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I got a phone call, and what happened is one of the most experienced constables gave him a shopping list. And basically, it was more money than what had been requested before. But I believe we got him taken care of, as if come October, he can buy his winter stuff and should take care of what he needs.
Yeah. I didn't know whether we had a set, I guess, type or brand or whatever, and it may be, you know,
No, the
this
purchase
expense
clerk-
is here or this one here,
No, the
we,
purchase clerk has to do all of that.
Okay.
And she knows what places, what
oh,
vendors
okay.
give the best
Well,
prices.
Yeah,
so-
that's what you're answering
Right,
it
so
then,
that's,
okay.
that's all handled,
Yeah.
through her.
But it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of get a gauge of, like what the sheriff buys to outfit his deputies and give us a line to go from.
Well, I can tell you that the sheriff does way less.
Does he go ahead and buy the whole year's round worth of stuff, or does he just does the season that they're in?
I know when a new deputy comes on, he said he gets them 3 pair of one kind of pants and 2 of another, and so many shirts, and, I mean, his is a lot more limited than what we.
Well, and I guess that was when I read that, I would have thought it would kind of fell in line along with the sheriff. And that was kind of, I guess, what made me
Well, and the
question
reason
what I'm
why,
talking
because
about.
this was quite a bit more, and because we just asked the sheriff, what do you do for a new deputy?
Mhm.
And he gave us
Mhm.
a list
Yeah,
of what
Yeah.
he does to outfit a new one.
yeah. Now, that's what drew my attention when you said that. That's when I asked, is there a different quality or something that makes them,
I also said when Barry called me, I was like, you need to call the supervisor of that district and be talking with him, not me.
I've talked to him.
I fear you had. Everything good?
Yeah, I mean, he was
He came by yesterday.
He said he was coming by Friday, yesterday to
He
see
came by
Laura.
yesterday to.
You know, he just said, I just took the list, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the difference was he was getting 11 pants and 11 shirts, some of which were winter, some of which were summer. And
I told
it was
him,
this late in the budget year, and it exceeded that amount.
Mhm.
He's okay with waiting till the new budget year, and then being able to get the coat and all
Right.
the things that go with winter, you know,
Right.
that he doesn't necessarily need now. He understands budgets and.
yes, and he came back yesterday and it was fine. I told him
No, I
after
was
he can come back.
mostly wanting to ask a question. I'm not saying, I'm just curious because the way it came up.
If you don't know, you need to find out, right?
Right, I mean, because somebody out there will know and then you'll be asked.
Absolutely.
My goodness, the word travels. It'll slip out of this room before we out the door.
The next department is the game warden, that's the same amount, we pay for 2 air cards there. On vector control, the increase is for GPS, system and increase in fuel.
Where are you now?
On 266, vector
Yeah.
control.
I got you.
The, next, the, MEMA, that was a bonus grant that we have money in there, it's being spent down. FEMA safe room, that is a true guesstimate. That one, we have no reference point to. Y'all allowed the sheriff another deputy that will be, the salary will be in that department so that we can keep track of the true cost of the safe room. The outside of utilities that we put in there, the fringes, a deputy. A lot of this is one-time expense to set up the building, tables, chairs, paper towels, cleaning supplies, TV, radio, telephone. I mean, just a lot of one-time expenses.
Is this stuff we're required
We're
to put in there?
required to.
Are we?
Yes. Baby changing stations within the restroom.
Yeah, well, I can understand.
All kind of things like that. We've gotten.
I didn't know about the TV. I mean,
There
TV, stuff
has
like
to be
that.
one, it's in the control room, it's not a.
Okay,
it's
all right, I got
watch,
you.
It's in the control room
Okay.
to monitor weather
Oh,
and
right,
all that
I
kind of
understand.
stuff. So, we don't know how accurate we are on this, we've done our best guesstimate
Mhm.
to get the place set up and to account for utilities and the employee that will be allocated to that. After that, next year, we'll have a better look at what we're gonna need.
Did I hear, while we're on that, did I hear that we had a leak in the building? Something to do with the, like coming up from the foundation?
Ooh, no.
No?
As we walked around, I'm gonna try to guess what you heard.
I'm trying to,
Okay.
it just popped in when you said FEMA because I'm trying to think where I was when somebody asked me, and it's back to one of those things, I was in the
No,
dark.
I
I went, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I understand
the-
it's, coming up through part of the foundation.
No, the closest thing that we may be, as you walk around the place, there's seepage that, when they put those blocks in, there's still some seepage that's bleeding through. I'm gonna tell you what, the way I understand it.
That may be what it
The
is.
seepage
Okay.
that's bleeding through, that's causing some discoloration until it completely dries out on a couple of the seams within it. Now, there was one that I'm gonna watch closely. I wanna make sure that that is what it is. But I've checked, there's no pipes behind it, that type of stuff. I don't, no one can think that there would be any real leak from the roof, the way that thing is put together. So it's an aging process on letting the blocks dry out.
I'm trying to think where I was. It just caught me totally off.
They put a vapor barrier between
That's what I'm,
the
yeah,
cavity wall between the block and the brick.
yeah.
And unless there's not a wick at the bottom or a weep hole
Yeah.
at the bottom of the wall,
Mhm.
it shouldn't be trapping water.
No, I don't, now.
Unless dirt gets
Wait
above
a
the
minute,
weep
we
hole.
may be talking about two separate things. We may be talking about two different buildings.
Seepage.
We
No.
do have a water problem out at the JDC of the water seeping in from the groundwater level. Okay?
I'm at a,
We
I
may be talking
can't,
about two separate
the
buildings.
old one or new one?
The new one.
Somebody, I'm trying to think who told me. I'll think about it.
Well, we got water issues out there, that's the same thing the old one did.
That's why I thought we moved.
Yeah, exactly.
It just
And
followed
this
us.
is not a roof problem. This is a,
This just
I think
followed
that the
us.
water table has risen to the point that in the, if you go back there where they dug down to put the electronic equipment, I think that we may have a water table problem issue there. I talked to
night.
the architect last week and informed him of it. But the, and that's all I can tell you about it right now.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know that you were talking two separate
Well,
buildings.
and I'll think about it where I was when this was mentioned. Like I said, caught me totally off guard just in
Yeah.
some conversation.
No,
The seepage you're talking about, Hoopy, are we talking about the crack at where the wall meets the floor? Or just on the floor?
That's a good question, okay? And I don't know exactly how the water is seeping through.
Which
Okay.
seepage are you talking about, juvenile
The
or?
new building.
He
The new
talking-
building,
New
yeah.
building, okay.
The new, oh, the old building.
No, he's talking about the FEMA building.
FEMA.
Yeah, see, I'm not talking, and the seepage is just along the wall, not where it hits the floor, Jay.
So it's just on the wall.
It's on the wall, and there is some, and it may occur occasionally at the floor. But I'm not to the point that I think that we have an issue there yet.
Okay.
Do we have any immigrants housed over there currently?
Well, what do you think we've, now, I better be careful, I know it's been.
I got a phone call last
No,
night questioning me
not
about
that I'm
this.
aware of, okay? Nobody has said anything about it.
I got a phone call the other day from the press.
About immigrants?
Yeah.
What is the deal?
I don't know. I told him, I said, I haven't
Over
got a
where,
clue.
Jay?
Here?
At the FEMA.
At
No,
the
at the
FEMA
FEMA
building.
room.
No, that building, we do not own that building yet. That building still belongs to the
Well,
contractor.
someone
maybe
is
he's
starting
housing
something. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that
No
way.
doubt.
crew.
Must be, man.
Yeah. No,
All I can figure is someone is starting something.
The
That's,
governor's sending a letter to the
No.
president.
no,
today.
we've had no conversations about immigrants
I got
anywhere.
this from the press and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No,
So
nor do I.
I said, call Craig Slade. He'll tell you everything about it.
The governor's
Nobody
from
has
Delaware.
bothered to call me.
Well, that's good to hear.
Our other governors
So-
said we're not.
All right.
Okay, the next department is 400 Public Health Department. They're requesting the same funding. The increase is due to the maintenance contract that we have at that building. Region 8 Mental Health, recall grant, it's been the same thing for several years. Welfare Administration, there's no increase there. Council on Aging, no increase. Human Resource, no increase requested. Donations, patriotic and charitable. The reason that is a decrease is, one of the seminars I went to, I think around Christmas time, we were told that we could not pay Mississippi Food Network any money, that they were not a nonprofit. Shortly thereafter, I didn't call them or anything, I received a letter from him saying that we have found out that we are no longer eligible to receive county funds, and we request that you don't send them, and we thank you for the money you've given us in the past. The Shelter Care for Children, I received a letter from them not too long ago saying that they did not have a house parent. Please discontinue funding until such time as they find somebody and can start up again.
Yeah,
And
that's
I've heard
been,
nothing.
that's been pretty much gone for
Yeah,
quite a
for
while.
5 or 6 months,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, they-
Really?
That's a shame. That's a,
It's hard to find someone that wants to step up in that role.
I bet so, some of the ones that got a house.
Yep.
Net 500 on the third page, libraries, that is not the millage money, that's what we pay for utilities and, at the building up there. We get some of that money back through receipt side because we do bill, CRMLS for their portion of the utilities. We don't bill them 100% because we have maintenance that occupies a portion of that building, but we do get, money back on that. Recreation grant, we have in there the same as last year. Soil conservation, they did request a $4,000 increase. And I know that pays for, that amount of money pays for their secretary or clerical person that is over there. And they did ask for an increase there. County Extension, the increase there is, they have requested that 4-H agent that we had back there several years ago. That slot equals about $15,000. The remainder of that money is the Southwest District Livestock Show that has always been a line item within the livestock arena budget, and they said it does not belong there. So it's all within general county. We moved it out of there and we put it up in the extension service.
I think that's a good idea,
One
really.
department
That
to the
way
next.
identifies it. I think it's a good idea.
The money is not spent at the arena.
Right.
The money is spent over at,
So we,
Well, I think that's a
Okay.
good idea because of everything now. You see where that money's
right,
going.
it didn't affect it because we just
Right.
moved it from one department to the next
Right.
one. Livestock, facility, the multipurpose
excuse me.
facility, you will see
No,
an
I'm not.
increase there. We have in there, salaries and fencing of $100,000. Now, the reason the salaries don't look like it's enough there, we had basically $60,000 in contract where we paid 2 people. So that money now goes up into the personnel portion and out of the contract. So we've added some additional funding to that. And then the fencing, and that's your budget you come up with. Also, we had the additional $30,000 where we moved the Southwest District Livestock Show money up into the extension service.
So, go back to the Southwest District Livestock Show. What did,
That is
explain that one?
premium dollars that we pay for the
4-H.
horse shows.
Yeah.
And that is the judging money to pay the judges and the premium money.
Mhm.
I believe it's held over there at the Heinz facility, if I'm not mistaken.
Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds over there is where it's held. That money has previously been in the multipurpose livestock budget, and we moved it up into the extension budget.
So really increasing both. Increasing both line items, what you're saying. If we'd have left the Southwest District, we're just moving it from livestock.
You would have had an additional 30,000 in there. It would have
Right.
been 151. But we moved it up into the county extensions budget. So this increase in the livestock is from the fencing and the salaries. And like I said, it only looks like 21 in salaries, but you had an additional 60,000 in the contract line item that moved up into the personnel line item.
The extension office, how many salaries do we cover?
Let's see, I got it right here. No, we have, we have currently 4, 5 slots, and they are requesting the 4-H agent to go back in there, which we had before Doug, became 6 slots is what we will have.
30,
We're actually adding a slot?
Well,
30,
yes, we are. We had years ago, I believe we have 6 slots. We originally had 6 back several years ago. I want to say back in 08, 07, 08.
Yeah.
We had all those slots, which are an area extension agent, an extension agent, an office associate, a 4-H agent, an area extension agent / county coordinator, and an office associate. When Houston left and Doug took over his slot, he did dual duty. And so he was the
4-H
office
4-H
coordinator.
agent
Yeah,
and-
he was both of them. So they're asking for that one slot to be put back in there and separate those duties out in a 4-H agent. That's around $15,000.
It will be our portion
Would
of
be our
the
portion.
salary?
Yes, because we only give them a supplement they're paid by Mississippi State.
That's the job. That's the one that Ms. Surratt came and appeared before the board a few months ago.
Right. Right.
Hey, let me ask you, on this livestock fencing, 100,000, that's gonna be a one-time expenditure?
Correct.
That's correct.
So why are we wanting to jump on that right now?
I didn't, well, it's been part of the discussion.
Okay. Well, I mean, until Brandon actually starts breaking ground out there, we don't have, is that a concern to us?
Well, it depends on how we want the place operated. If we want control of the place, we have to put a fence up.
Well, is that, and I can't remember the exact whole layout, is there a way to fence a portion of it to, I mean, I know you could go maybe drive around it, but, I mean, is there a way to fence a portion of it and not fence the whole thing? The back section and all that back in the woods and all?
There may be.
Well, that's what I was thinking, maybe rather than having some ugly
That's what I'm
cyclone
saying.
fence,
That's what I'm saying.
make some nice, make it very well presentable from the road. you
Right.
know?
Well, I don't know how do you do it without it costing a heap of money? Although 100,000 is a heap of money, by doing something other than a cyclone fence.
Well,
When you start building.
No, you
other
need
things-
you're talking about, I think you need a black cyclone fence. If you try to do a wrought iron, it's gonna be way more expensive, and the maintenance on it's gonna be so much more, because eventually they have to be painted. If you do the black cyclone down through there, it would look nice and have some nice, and then had an entrance with whatever nice there, with a gates. You could either have a motorized swinging gates, or you could have a sliding gate that's motorized.
You know,
That runs on a track.
On the cost, once again, what this is according to Lance, and who went and measured this thing on his machine, the plot, and you're
Right.
correct, the plot is 5,000 square 12 feet.
Yeah, almost a
on the
mile.
Perimeter. And that's, and the cost of 8-foot fence is $15 per square foot. That's out of this number. And then two 14-foot double gates.
Right.
$20,000, which I assume about $10,000 a piece.
I think that's a little high.
And it may be,
No.
and it may be.
Yeah.
So you're talking about putting one at each entrance?
Yeah. Basically.
Okay.
So-
Well, with the openers and all, the openers where you get most of your money there. 14 foot is fine as long as you've got a big opening where you can line up straight if you put on a trailer in there, otherwise it's gonna be too narrow. So, but I when I saw that, I got to thinking about it. Why couldn't you, like, kinda like Jay's saying, until Brandon starts whatever, all you need is a fence on a certain portion of it. So you cut your costs way down and look at the other later, whenever something develops from the Brandon side.
Yeah.
No,
You know, I'm not pushing to put a fence all the way.
no,
around.
well, I understand. I just didn't want it. Yeah, I think that'd be the way to could handle that.
So what
But
did
we
you
do
have
need-
under
we can't
salaries?
talk about controlling access without talking some sort of fence.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not gonna ride their horse from the road up, so if we put a gate across the road, then I think that's all the restriction we were gonna need, don't you think?
Right.
Now,
Red.
Well, we don't know exactly if Brandon's going ahead this year and they're putting it in their budget to do go ahead and move with that, then we would have to do the
Yeah,
fence.
but
we
there
could
ain't
always-
no way in the world they could get that done.
I don't know. I don't have a
Shoot,
clue.
they'd have to bid all that out, and they ain't got it drawn up yet, do they?
They've got a conceptual. I don't know if they've got it.
Well, they still have to go to MDA and get approval, too.
Like I said, I haven't seen their budget, so I don't know what they put in it. But
you know, and as we get that, because this thing has several layers to it, obviously. And we're talking about control of the facility. There is some thought that nobody should be able to use the facility for free. Well, if you're not gonna allow anybody to use it for free, you gotta have somebody there to collect the money. If they're collecting money, you got to have the control egress and regress out of there. And so what these numbers include is these numbers include a manager at, what do we say, 34,000 a year, then plus fringe, would bring it up considerably. Trish is already there. This would put Trish on the payroll and would be paying her retirement, no health insurance, she already gets that. And then 2 part-time workers at about $11,000.
Well, let me ask you, what's the part, explain the part-times you got in your mind.
Okay, the part-time I have in mind is very much like Flowwood uses.
Right.
What they call their park rangers.
Correct.
These are the guys that are there, particularly if we had egress, regress out, controlling access, controlling what goes on there. Somebody there the entire time that a function is going on.
Yeah, there's no time in Winter Circle
Come on,
Park
James.
or the Nature Trail or anything like that during operation that someone is not there. Because when we're there Monday through Friday from 7 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon, as soon as we leave, my park rangers come in, they close it down at 9 o'clock. Of course, there's about an hour and a half lapse when the park does close. It closes at 10:30. On the weekends, they're there from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. So you do have presence out there of keeping it clean, bathrooms clean. You've got the safety aspect of it. I mean, everything is moving, and these are part-time park rangers.
Most retired individuals, aren't they?
Exactly. And actually, one of them is Brian Bailey's uncle. So didn't even know that till after I'd hired him. Probably one of my best employees. So with all that being said, we've had a lot of great comments. I've had it for 3 years. Not only these people assist or do all of that job, but they also assist the elderly to be able to get them from point A to point B. You know, from if they're on a walker, they get them on their golf cart, they take them in, take them over to their pavilions and things like that. So it is a public service to help out, and it's been a great asset. I mean, for 3 years, like I said, it's paid dividends. So,
Well-
but with that, we put money back into our facility because we do rent our pavilions for birthdays, and and people don't bat an eye on it. You know, they just $25 for Flowwood residents for a 16 by 16 space and $40 for non-residents, 16 by 16 space for 3 hours. It's like this weekend, we've got 16 birthday parties. We'll probably make in excess of $2,000 just that one day just on birthday parties. So I kind of, whenever I was asking the other day about residents coming in and just basically riding for free, it's kind of discerning, I guess, because we do the same thing. I don't really know of a county facility that you can really go to and absolutely just use it for free, or municipal facility.
Sure you can.
Which one?
Well, people go to the park all the time. You don't have to pay to use the park.
You don't, but if you want to make sure you've got a birthday party.
Well, if we
At
have
that
a
facility.
function, then we can charge them for it. But just to go up there and use it,
And which is going to open up a whole can of worms, I'm here to tell you, Jay, because once we fund them even more, once this word gets out, don't think that you're not going to have your golf cart people and your go-kart people and things like that have their hobbies that are fixing to open them doors.
to do what? I mean,
Basically come out there and use a multi-purpose building.
To do what with? To
I
ride a
mean,
go-kart around in there?
Yeah, if I want to ride a go-kart in there, why wouldn't I? I mean,
why not just go right out in the parking lot? What's the difference?
I understand what you're saying, but if I want to have a little old race and take my kids out there on a little,
That'd be a function.
why?
You go out there and race?
No, me and my child, we get a go-kart and run out there. I mean, just be the same as your horse riders coming out there and warming up their horses and stuff.
Yeah, how do we control that? That's a good question, you know, is the guys worry about the operating, how do?
Well, you can
the
warm up
guys
your golf
show-
cart, but you can't race out here. You
Well,
warm your horse.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to have some rules.
I'm just telling you, the thing's gonna open up. It's gonna open up. I've had people, like you say, people off the street asking, wait a minute now, we're paying for this, but yet we can't go out there and we can't throw a ball.
Well, I
We
think
can't
it
do
is
this.
a livestock pavilion. It's not a go-kart
It says
pavilion.
multi-purpose pavilion.
Well, maybe we need to name it correctly.
Well, that was a discussion. of
It
what
was a
should be
discussion,
named.
but you got 99% of the people that don't have livestock in Rankin County.
But I mean, it was built for that purpose, and it's always been used for that purpose. So I don't really see any issue. The only thing we need to do is, I guess, hire a manager and go from there. You know, until we start getting all these things booked. I thought with the sheriff, in my discussion with him, by giving him this deputy, he was going to have prisoners out there that was going to be maintaining the grounds and keeping everything
The
maintained.
bathrooms and stuff like that. That was gonna be that was my other
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, but they won't be
To add
there.
to that.
They will not be there during functions.
They can't be there
No, I
during
know that,
functions.
but I'm thought,
Well, then what's the girl for? The Teresa,
Trish?
Trish.
She can't be there, you know, she has tried to be over the years.
Well, maybe we
They're
need to get another
100%.
person.
I'm sorry?
Maybe we need to get another person if they can't be there. I mean, that's what
no,
we're paying them to do, right?
he's talking about all time as far as all functions.
Cause what is her salary right now, Hoopy?
Her salary right now, we pay her on contract, $25,000 a year, plus she makes some money off of shavings. She
Right.
probably brings in about 31,000 a year.
Right. She's been there 10 years and knows it inside and out, and probably has kept that thing going for the last 10 years.
She has. She's done.
It has been used as a multi-purpose pavilion over the years because when I first came on board, they were having little mini motorcycle races in there.
Mhm.
And that was a pretty big controversial item because they had to take the dirt and build the humps and the jumps and the valleys and all that
Right.
stuff. There was some, discussion as to whether or not the road crew did it or no, it's for a private entity. They need to do it themselves. We'd have to let them use a tractor. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Laura. You remember the
Well, that can't happen now.
one time our church met there, so it has been used for multiple.
Yeah, I went to
functions.
Easter service there once.
What?
Easter service.
Yeah.
Bands use it. I mean, there's several. I mean, if you name it just Agra,
But no, what you're talking about though, and what Walter's talking about is totally separate. He's talking about a function. You're talking about just going up there and want to ride your go-kart.
well, tell me the difference.
Well, one's a function, the other one you're just gonna go up there by yourself and.
Oh, tell me
and
the
on your
difference
own
between a
time.
horse and if I had a go-kart.
Just like I said, the
One's got a
facility's
motor.
built for,
And,
for
go-kart
horses.
doesn't.
Not to say that if somebody wants to come in, book it to have a birthday party at and ride go-karts or motorcycles or whatever you want,
I guess I'm trying to understand, if you got a dirt track and it's out there and these taxpayers of the Rankin County can utilize out of the weather a facility, I'm just telling you, the doors are fixing to open up.
I guess that'd be up to this board to set our policy then.
I would think so, if that's what you want to do on with 99% of the electoral out there saying this is what we're gonna put on you. I'm fine with that.
Me too. I'm fine with doing that.
Okay.
I'm not.
We'll see. No, I'm fine with, let's see how willing you're, how far you wanna go. Cause let me ask you.
Anyhow, I'm just telling you what's in this number.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, but I guess let's get back to this number.
All right.
$121,000. So you're saying 100,000 of that is fencing?
100,000 of that is fencing.
Okay, so 21,000.
Is the net salary. Plus, though, wait a minute, first off, it would be, if it was the same as last year, what was that, 35,000? There'd be, what?
30.
30, no, I'm talking about that we moved into the extension. It was 35. It would, if it compared to last year's number, it would be 35,000 more, it would be 156, because we took the 35,000 out and moved it up to the county extension, okay?
So what you basically done is move some money to, that's what I'm saying, it's moved from one line item to another,
Yeah.
and then backed into some other numbers.
So the actual increase is the 21,000, defense is 100,000, the 21,000 plus 35,000, which is the actual increase is $56,000.
So the rough estimate figure would be,
275,000.
yeah, but after this year, the fence would come out, so then it would be 175,000, 178,000 roughly.
Yes, but you would have to add the 35,000 to compare apples to apples. You got to take the 35,000 and add it back in.
So you're looking around $200,000.
You're looking right around $200,000,
to operate that facility.
depending on what you're going to do with the 35,000.
Right.
The 35,000 really has nothing to do with the operation of that facility. It was in there in the past.
Okay. Well, I had Laura pull some numbers for the last 3 years. And
Yeah.
it looks like roughly, just the last 3 years, we've spent approximately $525,000 in expenditures. In revenue, we've got in about $118,000, so we've roughly spent out about $406,000
In 1 year?
in 3 years.
Oh.
So $406,000 that's gone. That's after revenue and everything. Is that pretty much
Except you'd have to take out 35,000 every year.
right?
Yeah, take out 3 times, that's about 100,000 of expenses that really.
Even more so.
That probably should not have been charged against the facility. So if you're talking about 400,000, you're talking, it down to 300,000.
So 300, roughly 300,000, about $100,000 a year.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying all along, that we are putting in an additional about $100,000
Well, then you
year.
have to add back in the street department or road department.
Oh, that's right. That is strictly expenditures.
Right.
It does not take into consideration
And I took in,
kind.
right, I went ahead and like I said, that's my business, so I have to look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we're spending about $2,000. That's what we had been spending for the last 3 years. About $24,000 a year from Dale's crew. And then roughly about $10,500 a year on insurance. So you're looking at roughly $34,000 extra a year.
That offsets
Right,
what we moved to extension service.
right. So it gets it back up to about $400 and something thousand.
Yeah,
So again,
it is what it is.
like I said, that's one of them, if that's what we want to tell the Rankin Countyans and everybody that's coming after everybody, that's giddy up.
You know, as I made the comment at the board meeting last week, there's nothing that says we have to do anything.
Right.
You know, that doesn't go across very well.
Oh, I know it doesn't.
We don't have to
And-
do anything. We can continue to operate exactly the way we're operating now.
Or there are some other options. We've got, and I'll just throw this one out here.
What do y'all think about beaver control? You notice that line, Greg? Look at that.
I've noticed it real well. What, and this is to get off a little bit off the subject, but
Raise beavers out there.
but it's not too far off the subject, across the road there in the road department. How far down the road are we gonna go with our county barn out there? How much further before we have to do something?
I can give you 2 answers for that.
Okay,
The first answer is, I really think I'm gonna have to talk to the president of the Board of Supervisors to
Okay.
figure that out. But that's the flippant answer. The other answer is, it may occur quicker than what we want it to occur. Because this board would declare that place a nuisance property.
In a minute.
In a minute.
yeah, we're sitting here declaring nuisance properties all out there everywhere. And sooner or later, somebody's gonna flip it and say, wait a minute, what you got right there?
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the worst in the counties. Now, one of our options could be, we've got a building right across the road. Actually, I have two buildings, the multipurpose building and the warm-up arena. With a little bit of work, you can make that into a county barn quick. And really cost nothing to the taxpayers of Rankin County.
You know, that is an industrial area.
I know that's an industrial area.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think we'll be going out in an industrial area and making somebody pick up like we would a residential area.
Yeah, but it's also fixing to be one of the prime spots for Brandon to showcase when you're going down through there. Somehow Miss Mandy's got out there in an industrial area.
Yeah, that's a,
Hello?
And I wasn't on this board when it happened, so.
Yeah.
I'm
You
in
know,
a
obviously,
board
there's
meeting
no
now and
firm answer to that.
budget.
I'm just
At some
saying, this
point,
is,
Our
Talking
county
about
barn is
30
gonna
minutes.
have to be addressed.
it's gonna have
And
to be,
that may be sooner than.
oh, I know it's gonna be
what we would like.
sooner. I've been checking it out. I've already actually asked Brandon to declare it a nuisance, and it's in my district,
Yeah. Yeah.
so. There are several options out there. Since we own it, I'd really rather not live in a glass house and say, guys, I need you to clean stuff up, and we're sitting here in a dilapidated area. So, okay, let's beaver control now.
Everything else, you can see that there's no change to, so you get down to the bottom, interfund transfers. That's where we keep additional money for Blue Cross. I've reduced it by 130. We're gonna use that. We're going to, in this budget, to offset solid waste, hopefully next year with the increase in the solid waste account, the billings to the individuals. It will take care of itself, but we won't need that additional 130 to help out solid waste. Not saying that we couldn't use it for the Blue Cross account, but hopefully.
Yeah, we just don't know what that's gonna be
We just
yet.
don't know what that, yeah.
Hey, our attorney did bring up something. What are we getting out of beaver control? What exactly, what are we getting out of that now? Because I do have people with beaver problems and stuff, so.
How that works, Greg, is we send this money to the state.
Right.
The Beaver Control Program is administered through the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And what that entitles those who
I
qualify.
thought we got out of that.
We did.
Yeah, we're out of that.
We're out of that.
We just hired a beaver guy to
We
come
keep-
trap them.
Right,
My apologies.
we keep that money in there. We used to belong to the BCAP program that we sent the 75 to the state and they took care of it.
Right.
But about 2 years ago, I believe that the landowner has to go, if it's on their property, they have to take care of it, right? And we keep this money in here in case the county needs to do anything that would infringe on any of our things, if we would have to hire somebody.
I think what's happened in the past too, there's been situations where it's not clear, it's not readily apparent whether the problem is on the landowner's part of the deal or if it's on a navigable water,
Right.
which would fall into the public responsibility. So there's been a lot of freedom to deal with those situations.
Well, the problem with beaver control, if it's, as they say, they're dammed up right there at the bridge on one of our roads. Well, naturally, that's a problem for us. But the problem with trying to control beaver is they usually didn't go right upstream or down, they're just downstream or upstream with the same situation. So you clear it out here, but you're not helping upstream. And that's what some of the landowners,
That aggravates them.
well, that
So we
and
can't-
what they have to do then is give the beaver guy permission to go down there, but he's not gonna keep going downstream trapping without being on private property much without being paid. We had to hire a beaver guy to trap on our place because my mother had a lot of the place in the CRP program, and they made such a mess that they were taking some of it out of the
Yes,
program.
sir, I do.
So she was forced to hire them.
Yeah.
And he to this day has caught 143 beaver. Yes.
Over what period of time?
Well, initially he caught like 70 right off, like within months.
Dang.
Yes. Then what he does now, he's got to deal with her. He comes back ever so often, and if he sees any activity, he sets traps up. He saw me the other day. He said right now he had about 3 in the back of the truck.
Yeah, they
Monsters. Well, see, we're not far from Pearl River, so they just are coming on up and make another home.
70 in one whack, though. That's a lot of dang beaver.
He would haul them out of there. I swear it looked like he had wood piled in the back of his pickup between beaver and otter. But then, but in that, what I was getting at is he said, look, he got permission from the landowners around close by there and worked out something with them to continue because he was clearing her up, but the water was going right here and then back up on her. So that's the problem you have right there. If you don't go downstream.
Yeah.
But it has been a real benefit for a lot around here.
I did not know we were out of the DCAP program. I thought we were in it, so never mind what I said, Greg.
Okay, Greg, I'm gonna get you to come down there and trap some beavers for me.
I know as much about trapping as I do about the DCAP program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to step out, but on the livestock deal, I was with the sheriff. What he going to? I mean, wouldn't what he was going to do help some on this? Having somebody there, isn't that going to help?
It will, except they will not be there during functions.
Well, even an officer.
The officer may well be down in the safe room, but maybe not if there's no function at the safe room.
Okay.
And if there's no room, or if there's no look, I guess, of probably bad weather, I mean, he's probably, if a clear blue sky, he's probably not gonna be there.
You know, up in the middle of the night, nothing going on in the safe room,
Right.
won't be an officer there.
Well, now, what if there was some kind of a function in the facility and we needed the FEMA space for vendors to set up, sell tack and feed and whatever else?
Well, that's gonna be coordinated through the sheriff, and he'll
And
have
then he has to
somebody
do
there.
that.
He'll
Because that's
be
what
there
we're putting
then.
on. Yeah. He's basically a marketing security from what I understand.
For the
For the
FEMA
safe
bill.
room, right.
Safe room.
Marketing.
So if the
and-
FEMA room was being used, I would say he would have someone there.
Yeah, he will.
Right.
Which if he's there, couldn't he kind of, I was on the impression that he would kind of have double duty. Just his presence at the facility would be there also. I mean, he's not gonna have to sit in the FEMA room and
Well,
observe them selling tack.
That's what the way I got it is he's not going to venture too far from there because
Why
that's
would
what
you need
he's,
to be in there while they sold tack?
I don't know
Or-
unless,
Whatever.
why would he want to have to go into the multipurpose building? That's why I think that's where
He
the
just
sheriff
walks out the
said.
door and makes a loop around, walks around.
That would be between the sheriff though and his employee, because I know he did say that his main function was gonna be that safe room, so I think his biggest
That's something I
asset.
think we talked to him about. I would think,
We definitely need to come up with what we want our hours of operation to be and what we want the person we hire, what their responsibilities are gonna be as far as who needs to show up, when, where, what time. And when we do that, then maybe we can answer a lot of these questions ourselves.
well, and the person that we hire, I think we should should be able to give some input also. And I think that also will factor in who you hire is what kind of knowledge they have and what they're willing, on their understanding of what they're gonna do. As far as, but anyway, all right, that's all. We can talk to Sheriff about that. Move on.
The end numbers here, then, it looks like a difference of 34,379.
Really close, isn't it?
Real
I mean,
close.
and there's several departments, that's 34 short, but several departments have not been extensively, this is their request, haven't gone through to see if there's any minor changes that we can make. And my revenue side could very well offset it too. When I get a little bit closer and start looking at, have a little bit more concrete figures. So I think for a first run, that is really pretty good.
What's the capital improvements? What,
That's money that we have started putting in there to do the things that we need on several buildings. We have quite a few needs up at the old justice, the old courthouse building. If we have to have anything done, at the JDC, if that
yeah,
becomes a potential.
just in the event. Yeah,
That's right.
that-
We have quite a few
yeah.
things that we know
Right.
are sitting out there that need to be done.
I didn't know whether you already had identified some, but no,
No.
that's fine. No, I agree. It needs something there. Yeah, okay.
Right. And it might be that we have an overrun on the Blue Cross, that would take up some of that money there too. We never know on that. But I think all in all, that's a really close number for a first run.
Colonel, do you have any money in this budget to come up with an overall plan for the campus?
No,
Long-range
that is a different topic. I can give a very quick thought overview on that. And one of the things that we're looking at, and Lynn has been here and provided a couple, analysis of money. What we're talking about now is we're talking about capital budgeting. We're not talking about operational budgeting. We're talking about capital budgeting, meaning we do capital budgeting or spend capital expenditures. And when I mean capital expenditures, I mean those are big dollar expenditures for things that we build that we expect to last for many years. We do it in two areas. One is we do it in roads. And we got, I think you have a pretty good understanding on the roads. Now, what we do with the roads, a lot of that expenditures here has been through this last bond expenditure agreement. We have a 4.08 millage that we use for the debt service on those bonds. We have another bond that is maturing in what we're 14, 15, early 16, I think, that we're paying out of the road fund. And so when you put all of that together, and this is a rough number, okay? We spend right now about 6 mills or so, a little better than 6 mills on capital expenditures. As we look at that in the future, and we take a look at what we need in the future, we know we got a pretty good handle on the roads. I say pretty good handle, but I mean, we know what the needs are, and we've got somebody that's in charge of the capital expenditures and the capital plan and so forth for the roads, and that's our engineer. We don't have anybody that we are dealing with on the capital plans for capital facilities. I mean, the biggest being right now, and I'm going to include the communication system in the capital facilities on that. The communications, the Chancery Court building, the misdemeanor facility, the Justice Court building, and anything else that may get thrown in there. We need to come up with some sort of an overall plan that we have both a good handle and a capital budget plan for not only roads, but also for capital facilities, other capital expenditures. And we need somebody looking over that. And that's part of what we're looking at. And I'm not ready to come with a firm recommendation on that yet, but I'm having discussions about that. To where we take this 6 mills or whatever it is, and we set it over here and say that is going to be, for planning purposes, what we're going to use for capital expenditures, both on roads and buildings. And we laid the income from those 6 mills over our need for capital expenditures. And we then time phase that to say, when do we then go out and acquire the additional debt that we'll have to do to make that, so that it will be paid off in an orderly fashion, and that we continue to use that 6 mills, what's important, I think, on the capital expenditures, so that as we pay debt down, and we say, well, we're not using that 6 mills to pay the debt down, we'll let it fall over in this thing called the black pit of operations. And once it falls in the black pit of operations, it ain't ever available for capital expenditures again without increasing millage. And that's what we don't want to do.
Right.
So what I'm saying is we're looking at to be able to come forward with a recommendation on capital budgeting as well as operational budgeting. Using, hopefully, the money that we have. And I think that we can do that. That will mean getting someone that can put together this capital facility plan, and then not only put together the capital facility plan, but oversee it, very much like we do with roads. Because we're talking about lots of money here in the next generation on this county. And and there are several alternatives out there that we can look at. And until we work through these alternatives, then we're not in a position to go and, basically hire an architect, because the first question the architect is going to ask is, what do you want me to do?
Yep.
And our answer is, don't know. We haven't gotten that far yet. So this is an approach, I think, that will give us an orderly control of what it is, where we want this county to go as far as roads and facilities, and not make arbitrary decisions. That's what we're talking about here. But I don't have anything firm to come forward with yet.
I brought it up last year about bringing someone in to do, an evaluation on the services we offer.
Feasibility study type.
And it would be, the state has a department that does that. And it would be very helpful for us going forward if we would bring them in and let them evaluate the services we offer versus, what other people do. At the same time, they can come up with what we pay, our staff versus other people's staff. And that could be a good basis to start from on, going forward with
Now, which
whatever
department
type of
are we talking about?
It's with the Department of Audit.
Audit? Okay.
Yeah, they've got their own division where of course, you probably know
It's
that,
called
but
a
they've,
performance audit, but
right.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
free. I mean, it's not
It's
something they
very
provide free
inexpensive
gratis.
though. It's
What
very
kind of cost you talking about?
Yeah.
Any idea? I mean, just off the top
Less
of
than
your head.
20,000.
Yeah, I think it was, I talked to the lady one time, a couple years ago, and probably the same lady you talked to from.
Sam Atkins.
Yes,
Sam Atkinson.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sam.
I think it was roughly 20, 22, somewhere around there
I
to
know
do
Sam.
a,
I've worked with Sam in the past.
do a
Which department are you talking about trying to do it countywide? or-
countywide.
Let them come in and evaluate what we do.
Because I don't know if you really want to just pick and choose, then all of a sudden it's going to look like,
Yeah, you singled out somebody.
right.
I
Do they
think
get into the issues of space utilization and?
I don't know if it'd be as much that, but it would be, they could give some comparisons as the level of service we offer. Maybe they could say, hey, we have 4 more employees in this department than other counties of our size. So to me, that is dealing with space.
Well, it absolutely does. They gotta have somewhere to occupy.
Right.
And I'm afraid you're not gonna wanna hear where we are salary-wise compared to what everybody else pays.
But man, that would give us a great basis point to go from.
She did say that she will give us what we want to hear or give us what we need to hear.
Well, I wouldn't.
Oh,
gonna
that
pay her
ain't
to
the way
give us
she
what
put it
we
to
want.
me. She
Well,
said,
it's
I'll
one of
tell you,
those-
you may not want to hear what I have to say.
It is one of, well, let's put it this way. She said that there are certain boards that don't want to hear what we have to say, but certain boards that just want us to, not in those so many words, but would rather us move very cautiously towards what you want to hear. So,
Maybe she needs to write 2 reports.
I don't know that she'll write 2 reports. It's really according to the board on, how far do you want, how deep do you want to go? And that's what it sounded to me like, what I got from her. So, because she said they will go in depth.
Well, I'm not talking about coming in doing job descriptions and all
No,
that.
no.
I'm simply saying, come in and give us, grade us and where we're at. And if we're understaffed in certain areas or overstaffed or,
Where we need to make improvements, anything like that. Or
Yeah.
if we're doing great.
Anything that they do like this is gonna be very general, because my observation is when you start comparing county to county,
Right.
you in many cases are not comparing the same thing,
No.
not even close.
Well, it's kind of hard to compare a Rankin County to even a Madison County. I mean, it really is, even though we do that a lot of times. We got so much rural area in our area.
well, we're
We
also a
also-
lot bigger than them too.
Exactly.
So
So there are-
I
Right.
think that they would take a lot of that in consideration.
And I
Yeah,
think
they don't
probably
ever-
more of their populations in urban areas than in our area.
Right.
Yeah.
Over the years, we've recognized that, for instance, our justice court clerks are underpaid in comparison to other justice court clerks. They're cramped for space. Justice court is in bad shape. And as Colonel Stringer has toured our campus and visited each of these departments, he's come back and has mentioned to us in the past, we've got a bunch of onesies.
And we're gonna go into executive session and talk about that some, okay?
Oh.
All right. Or please, I hope y'all will go into executive session and talk about that.
Okay.
But we do. We have a lot of onesies in this county. And I mean onesies meaning that if people did not show up for work tomorrow, there would be a big gap in getting the work done. And
Which is not real good.
which is not real good. But at the same time, I think that what we're gonna find out, that when we're talking about the size of our workforce, I think that you would find that our size of our workforce is pretty doggone small.
I think so too.
Okay, which means you don't have a lot of capability to have the continuity that you would need. Let's just take, for example, one that, we think about. Let's take about in our road department. Okay, we have the road manager. And then there is a big gap.
Right.
Once you go below the road manager. And, if Dale were not able to come to work tomorrow, I don't know who runs that place down there.
I thought we had backfilled that, though, back about a year ago with
No,
What's
no,
Leon?
really happened.
part-time Leon.
Well,
Yeah,
Leon,
but he's part-time.
Leon is part-time.
But according to what we got was he had so much experience that he's here to backfill 3 days a week. I mean, it's 24 hours a week, I think.
But that's
20
a lot different than being
Yeah.
full-time running the place all the
Another
time.
thing another thing that I've recognized is you got, when George was here, he had Dale and Leon.
Right.
Well, so Leon now as full-time.
Right.
Then when, now Dale just has Leon at part-time.
Part-time.
So I mean, that's that big gap difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
think Dale's got George on retainer.
No, George has
Speed dial.
loyalty to this county as such that he's always willing to lend his advice. Anyhow, but so that's
He's working on our
But
road
that's just-
plan right now.
That's just an example.
Dale
There
is.
are other areas.
George.
Yeah.
There are other areas that we got the same sort of situation. And,
Yeah, one of which is our communications, which brings me to another subject. What was the email I got the
Oh,
other day, Jay, about
yeah,
the communications thing?
I had a guy call me that's a competitor of Motorola, and he had told me that, it might behoove us to go out for bids rather than doing sole source with them, because Motorola will only do a 25% discount if you do a negotiation, where if you open it up for bids, you can get a 45% discount.
Really?
Yeah, but after I sent y'all that email, I did my homework, and that's not really the case.
no, it's not really.
What we ended up getting was, we're getting the same price that the state got, that Motorola went out for bid on.
That's what she
And
said.
so we are coming out ahead. We're not getting their 25%. We're getting theirs as deep as they could go, and they were the cheapest bidder for the state system by like many, many millions of dollars, which was Harris Radio. Well, Tate Radio's the one that contacted me. They didn't even bid. Not only that, they just don't have any equipment here in our state. Like, they got some handheld radios, and they could sell us handheld radios probably cheaper than Motorola could, or in that ballpark. I don't know, but I think where we would be really concerned if we went and installed some of their equipment for their consoles, they don't have the ability to communicate with Motorola in a seamless manner. And so we would be having a lot of hiccups with that. I thought what really got me excited about it was, man, if we could make Motorola come back to the table and cut their price more, I was all for opening it up.
Yeah, in a bid type situation.
Yeah, in a bid type
Yeah.
situation. But when I found out we wasn't gonna be getting any different price than what we're at right now, then all that went out the window.
Well, the only thing, I haven't talked to any of them, but I understand up in Panola County, they had saved them a bunch of money,
Yeah.
$7 million.
They, and that's what I was talking about, they sold them a console, and they cannot communicate directly with the state system. They have to jump through some hoops in order to get to work, because they don't have, I guess, the knowledge of how to tie in to the state system seamlessly. So it's
The
kind of
other thing, the only thing that does bother me, now that we're on that subject, is the fact that I know we don't have to bid it, but that we're not bidding it. With it, the amount of money that we're talking about, it'd be different if it was a lot less, but we're talking about that kind of money. I've been asked, just people that have found out we're looking at it, are we gonna, who's bidding it, and wrong about the bid process. And if you, even if you bid it, and you had compare apples to apples, and Motorola still came in, low bid,
yeah.
which it sounds like they would, if you compared apples to apples, it would sure look better and it'd feel better. And because that's a lot of money, not to say, I'm almost in the favor and leaning toward we need to look at some type of bidding it, because it's just, it looks bad just to say we're gonna give $9 million out here, and we didn't when we bid so many other things, even though we don't have to. I understand.
Well, I think if we did bid it, it's a good possibility this Tate computer company or radio system could come in less money, but they don't have the ability to be able to communicate with our existing Motorola radios.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like all these updates we have to do to it, we would still have to go out and hire Motorola to do that.
Well, that's what I mean, though. If you they'd have to meet. You'd have to set what they would have to meet to be able to bid it. It may eliminate, like it does a lot of times on vector control. A lot of them can't meet the criteria that we put down there.
Well, I think that, we, on this, it has been bid. like, there are lots of things that we get off the state contract that are bid at the state level. It has been bid as, and we've gotten much the same information on our inquiries on this. It has been bid at the state level. It was extensively bid at the state level.
So all the work's already been done.
Yeah, and so we would just be duplicating what's already been done.
Well, but
on that.
it makes, like, you keep going back to the public, it makes them look like, it does look like you,
Sole sourced it or whatever.
right now, like you
I
sole
don't-
source, it looks
you know.
like you sole
Well, but we
source.
just haven't got it out to the public that the state level's already done all the work.
Yeah,
It's already done
it has
all the-
already been bid
So
at the
really-
state level.
But it does look like, either way you, I mean, it does look like you sole sourcing it.
When you do
I-
state contract though, I mean, basically that money's already been, or that work's already been done, so that's the reason why even with the
Why would
city
it
of
hurt not to
Flowood.
bid it?
Do what now?
Why would, how would it hurt to
You
bid?
might come back with a higher price than the state was able to get, since your quantities would be lower.
Yeah, 'cause you think about it, the state bid it out, and they
It's
bid
a whole
out
package.
400 towers, and we're bidding out 3 towers. You know, and they got that discounted price for those
We
400
got
towers.
5 towers. Is it 3? 5, isn't
Is it 5 towers we got updated?
it? 5.
Okay, 5
So
towers.
you're not gonna get a better.
That's right,
deal.
we added those 2. Yeah, 5 towers.
To complete the 5-tower plan that was adopted in 1976. Right after the-
Yeah. But you know, Jared, and this is what made me think about was the state gave, or Motorola gave the state this pricing for this much equipment, and now we're going, you really expect them to come down cheaper than what they gave the state for us? And whenever we got an eighth of the equipment that what the state purchased?
You know, we buy vehicles off the state contract.
Oh, yeah, well, I understand
We
that.
don't go
But I
out and bid
understand
that.
what you're saying, and you're saying it's public perception.
Oh, yeah.
And we just need to have some kind of an article in the paper explaining.
I was thinking about that yesterday. Not only just that, man, we need the public to understand that we're about to spend a lot of money for the municipalities also. You know, we're going to spend 300,000 minimum in each one of these cities that have a dispatch system.
And so then, when those cities come back to us and say, what have you done for us?
Well, remember, we get the 9/11 money, not the cities.
Right, but we also have to keep all that, those computers updated too. I really kind of wish all that was separated. We didn't commingle all that. Because you got the radio, to me, is different than the telephone, the 911. Because we do have to keep up all that that stuff and do it all for all the municipalities. We do have to keep our infrastructure on our radio towers updated and operational, that they don't have to pay for. In doing all this, though, I think that Craig does need to, when we get to that point, we definitely need to have some verbiage in there as far as the state goes, that we're going to have an MOU that they're allowing us to use their network, we're allowing them to use our network, and it's a wash. So that, you know, in the future, if they want to start charging for us to be able to access their stuff, then we need to be able to start charging them to access our stuff.
Well, that was something I was
The way I
asked too, would
understand-
keep them charging.
Yeah, the way I understand the presentation that Bob gave recently, what is being offered is, it's a little bit of a step back from what you're saying. The initial discussions were, we don't want to be charged a fee for access through Miss Wynn. And so the way we were going to deal with that, Jay, is a trigger that lets us out. When you start looking at 5-10 years from now, that charge gets applied and it triggers the ability of the county to extricate The problem as I see it is, what are all of the interwoven tentacles that are gonna get ripped out of that now?
Yeah.
And what could that possibly do to your communications environment at that point? So the approach, as I appreciate it, is that the state would credit, the Miss Win group would credit the county for the commensurate portion of of what the county is providing, dollar-wise, to Miss Win against that annual fee until it runs out. But that pool of dollars to offset that fee would be pretty substantial. I think what Bob, we would get like $8 million.
$8 million.
$8 million worth of credit against that fee. So, you know, if the fee's $100,000 a year, you got 80 years of credit that's available to you.
Now, there was a piece of legislation introduced last year, it passed the Senate, that basically said that Miss Win could charge a fee to state agencies, but could not charge a fee to locals. It passed the Senate, and it just mysteriously, it didn't make it in the House. And that caused a lot of consternation with the Miss Win people. The Miss Win people are not pushing to charge local governments at all. And so they, and like other legislation, there's hope that it will pass this year. But as Craig said, we'll get a credit, and part of the agreement that we are doing with Miss Win, and I have personally checked with Miss Win to make sure there's not a misunderstanding here, that we would get credit for our investment that we're making in our system before we would ever have to give a penny to anybody.
See, this is, to me, we're talking about two different things. We are, rather than buying our own computer system, we're going to use the state's computer system. But at some point in time, I think we all realize the state is going to start charging for people to use their computer system. And so at that point in time, we would probably come over here and purchase our own, which is going to end up costing us over $1 million, like $1.2 million is what it'll cost us. But the second thing is, though, is that we're going to do an agreement between us and the state that's going to allow us to use their infrastructure, their towers, but also they need our towers too, because they don't have enough towers in our county. That was the part I was talking about, so that they won't charge us to use their infrastructure, and we won't charge them to use our infrastructure, that we'll have a mutual agreement that we can use each other's infrastructure. And I'm not talking about using their core, their computer. I'm talking about they're using our towers, so at the point in time they do start wanting to start billing for using their core system, then we can put our own in and get away from that and still have interoperability.
I think the agreement, as I understand it, I've looked at it, unless it's changed since I last looked at it, that's exactly what it accounts for, that there is not a charge for tower usage. Am I off?
There's no.
I think
For how long?
that it's open-ended.
So what is all this credit for then, for the use of their core?
At the core. That's how I interpreted it.
See, at that time, we'd have to make a decision on whether we want to get our own core.
Yeah.
The $1 million you're talking
Yeah.
about. Or continue to use the state core and to pay the fee, and it's a fee per radio.
Yeah.
Is the way it's based. But we would get the credit for up to about $8 million worth of credit before we ever start having to disperse any money.
And I don't know why we wouldn't want to go that direction, Jay, because that puts off the need for us to acquire our own core
Right.
until $8 million worth of credit's been used up.
Well, I just want you to verify that,
Okay.
that if we do get to the point where we run out of credit and we operate our own core,
Yes.
that we still have that interoperability and there's no charge for it.
Yes. And the trigger is still there. The out is still there.
Well, I don't think we ever want to get off of being able to use the state network.
Right.
Because that's important to our deputies to be able to talk outside the county and all that.
So you're saying these other systems can't use the state network?
Not seamlessly, no. And matter of fact, there's not even in the state. They sold one up at Panola County, and they can't get it to communicate directly with the state system. They have to go kind of a workaround to make it work.
Well,
And I tell you something else too, and I'm supposed to be getting someone to call me to verify this, but their radios have a hard time of doing handshakes, like as someone travels, and whenever you leave one tower going to the next, they have a hard time dropping that one and picking up the next one. That's a bug that they have, and unfortunately, it's not their equipment that they're operating in, you know, it's a separate radio. So,
well, if they had, what would you call it, the 150 watt, whatever the units in the little buildings, if that's 150 watt, whatever, can the Motorola radios still work off of that?
Motorola would have to come in and program the radios. Tate couldn't do it, or Harris couldn't do it. Motorola still has to come in and do that. But the problem is the unit you're talking about needs to be able to communicate with the state if you're going to tie into the state network, and they were having trouble on making that happen.
On their just the radios, or because of this watt?
Their main unit, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of odd that we don't have more people, you know, in that line of work.
I'll be honest with you, man, when we were doing all this, I was just thinking it was all proprietary and they couldn't even operate, you know, intermingle radios and whatnot. But I was glad to find out that you could, but.
We're kind of, I mean, you're kind of like locked in
Yeah.
this way. It just looks bad to spend this kind of money and not have bid it in the way most people look at bidding it.
Yeah.
Not the fact that this,
Letting the state bid it for us.
and only, I mean, 'cause now it's hard to back up and say, well, we're doing this on state contract. It'd be different if we were like buying a Traco or whatever, and we bought it on state contract, or pickups.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
That state list has done much the same, regardless of what the piece of equipment or the service is.
Pretty much has already been.
I'm just saying
It is an advertised competitive process.
But if you were in the meeting last week, you would think Motorola was the only person in the game as far as selling this equipment.
Well,
Can we get Lynn Norris and them up here to give us a presentation on what they went over?
as soon as we get the numbers straight.
Oh, so okay.
Okay, we're still looking at what the numbers really are.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Any more questions on the budget?
Would like to, please, if you would, let's go into executive session and talk about some individual people.
Okay. Do I have a motion to,
So move.
I'm not going to just discuss the need to go on executive session.
there you go.
Yep.
Motion by Mr. Johnson,
Johnson,
second
second.
by Mr. Morrison. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we are now in executive session.
All right.
Not necessarily.
Good. Can we?
No, we've just
Can we get a
discussed
cup of
the
coffee
need.
before we do this, or?
Yes.
Make a
Grab
pit
a cup.
stop?
Let's go.
Executive session, the door is automatically locked.
The need for executive session is to
Discuss personnel.
matters. It's more significantly, individual employees of the county.
Okay.
So that's their need to go in.
I'll make a motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Brown. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right.
We're still recording, so wait.
Hang on just a second.
Jared, Walter.
Motion by Mr. Johnson to come out of executive session, second by Mr. At this time,
I feel something.